Lucas Prime here, so it's time for the next episode of a movie that didn't need a sequel. And in today's video, I'm going to cover this time an example of a action horror movie, which I personally think did not need a sequel, and was better off staying as a standalone movie. And this is one of my favourite zombie films of all time as well, guys, which I think is an absolute masterpiece from start to finish. And that, of course, is none other than, as you've seen by the title and the thumbnail and the clues I gave, 2016's Train to Busan. So, you guys are probably going to ask me what are my thoughts on this movie. So, early this year, with regards to me watching movies, I decided to take a bit of a step back from watching Hollywood films which are recent, because I think that recently Hollywood really have lost their touch with making movies, because a lot of the things I've seen from them in today have been garbage in my opinion, and just nowhere near as great as old films. So, as well as of course watching old films, I've also decided to watch films which are not made by Hollywood, and this has to be one of them. So, I watched this film Train to Busan earlier this year, and wow, I would definitely regard this film as one of the greatest zombie films I've ever seen in my life. I think it's an absolute masterpiece from start to finish, and my mind was blown when I watched it. Like, I was so amazed by how great it was, and I loved every second of it. Like, I thought it was just absolutely phenomenal, and I just loved it from start to finish, because it had a fantastic story, and with very likeable characters as well in the film too, and I must say it was also pretty terrifying and intense. I mean, it's zombies, so what do I expect? And they really nailed it with this movie. It was absolutely phenomenal from start to finish. 7 years old, and I think it's an absolute masterpiece. So, in terms of why I think we should have ended it there, so I personally think this film is perfect as it is, really. Like, I think it's way too good to get continuation, really, to be honest, because it has a pretty good ending, of course, because one thing that I can expect from a zombie film is for characters to end up dying, of course. And when it comes, of course, to the main character, Seok Woo, I definitely really loved his ending, where he unfortunately, of course, gets bitten when he throws off someone who is turning into a zombie, which was a Yeon-suk. And unfortunately, of course, he's infected, but he's able to teach Kyung how to drive a train, and he says goodbye to his daughter, Suan, and it's definitely very emotional. And then in his final moments before he turned into a zombie, he remembers the time his daughter was born, and then he throws himself off the train. So that was definitely a very sad ending, but definitely, in my opinion, one of the best sacrifices I've seen in a movie, really, because while he was unfortunately dying, he was able to stay calm and say goodbye to his daughter and teach Seong Kwang how to drive the train. So I think they did a really great job executing that sacrifice. And then Suan and Seong Kwang able to then stop the train at a blockage, and they're able to then find refuge. So that was definitely a very good ending. They were able to find refuge and able to be saved, because the snipers, of course, realise they're not zombies when Suan sings Aloha Oi in tribute to her father. So, right there, I think that was a perfect ending, and I also did not see any signs of sequel baiting whatsoever, because now that the characters are saved, you know, that's their story completed. So, I personally think that it should have been the end, but unfortunately, however, several years later, I think it was 4 years later in 2020, we got a sequel. And that, of course, was, as it's internationally titled, Train to Busan Presents Peninsula, otherwise known as Peninsula. And I would simply call it Peninsula, because this film barely at all feels like a sequel to Train to Busan, because I saw this film a couple of weeks ago now, and compared to Train to Busan, which I absolutely adore and think is a full-blown masterpiece from start to finish, 10 out of 10, this film, to me, I personally did not like. I thought it was very disappointing and was nowhere near as much good as Train to Busan was, in my opinion. So, when it comes to why I think that is, so first of all, I think Train to Busan didn't need a sequel to begin with, because it had a great ending. And also, what's silly is, this sequel barely at all connects to the original movie. The only thing it does is it references the start of a virus. It doesn't, you know, have any of the characters from the first movie as far as I can remember, so that was disappointing. So it didn't feel like a sequel whatsoever in that sense, really. And the characters I also did not care about either as well, as much as ones in the first movie, because I thought the first movie's characters were very well written and very likeable, and characters that I cared about, whereas in this film I just didn't care. And what I think is also dumb is the film includes several things which, in my opinion, are totally out of place for a zombie survival movie. For example, heists and also as well gambling scenes in like some gang districts. Like, are you kidding me? That's not what I want to see in a zombie movie. No, absolutely not. What I'm expecting is an intense thriller from start to finish, running away from zombies and fighting with zombies, surviving. That's what I live for when I watch zombie films, because I'm a fan of lots of zombie films, and Train to Busan being one of them, but I'm not a fan of this movie. And it was just so inferior to the first film, and I definitely would agree with critics on that, because they find it inferior to the first film, and I certainly do. And they do give it mixed reviews, but I personally give it a negative review because I did not like this sequel. It was so disappointing in my opinion. It was also boring too, I must say, mainly because there was barely much zombies in the film to begin with. And also some plot holes too as well, because there's a scene at the start of the film where they're on a ship escaping some characters, and somehow as well, a zombie gets on the ship, which doesn't make any sense. Like, how did they, allow this character to get on the boat? Like, are you kidding me? Like, he was infected, so why leave him? Why let him get on? Yeah, that was just so silly, really. So I couldn't really believe they did that. Like, just a plot hole right there. Killing off the characters too as well early into it was a silly move, I must say, really, too. So, as far as I'm concerned, guys, there's only the one Train to Busan movie. Just one. Which is why I'd personally call this sequel just Peninsula. I wouldn't call it Train to Busan Presents Peninsula, because it doesn't feel like a sequel to the first film whatsoever, in my opinion. Because it just feels so different and just out of place, in my opinion, and not needed at all, in my opinion, at all. So, that being said, compared to 10 out of 10 that I give to Train to Busan, which I think is a full-blown masterpiece from start to finish, I'd probably give this film a very disappointing 5 out of 10, because I think it's really boring, in my opinion, and mediocre. I mean, the acting is good from the characters, and the zombie makeup is also good too as well, I guess. And for what it's worth, the action scenes with zombies are decent too as well, but we barely get much of them in the first place, sadly. So I'd give it a 5 out of 10 for those reasons. But other than that, I think it's boring and not needed, and features things which, in my opinion, are out of place for a zombie film. And of course, the plot hole of how a zombie is able to get onto a boat, when the soldiers should have made sure the passengers weren't infected. But yeah, they didn't do it. They let someone who was infected, and he turned and killed everyone. So yeah, what a mistake that was. So, anyway, guys, this is me covering why, in my opinion, Train to Busan from 2016, to me, is a big example in the horror movie genre of a film did not need sequels. So, you know the drill, guys. Be sure to give this video a like. Also, be sure to tell us in the comments what you guys think of Train to Busan. If you've seen it, let think of it in the comments below. Do you need a sequel or not? Also, be sure to join Team Prime by pressing subscribe. News coming in future, and I'll see you all later.